Pokemon is incredibly unique in that it has had not one, but two stints as a worldwide phenomenon. The Pokemania of the 90s, from what I understand, was insane. Pokemon was everywhere and permeated not just the video games, but also TV and a lot of merchandise. Arguably though, Pokemon Go was even bigger. Sure, the phenomenon was shorter, only lasting a few months, but it wasn't just something you heard about on the news or saw kids playing. Everyone was doing it, and if you weren't doing it, you could be certain that someone in the immediate vicinity was. It wasn't just kids that were invested in this and their parents begrudgingly appeasing them. No, here the adults were just as into it as the kids. People forget how big that game was. These days it has a more modest following, and by that I mean it has over 70 million monthly players. So yeah, Pokemon Go isn't going anywhere. I personally haven't played it in a few months, which actually coincides with my general apathy towards Pokemon recently, but one thing I always take note of when it's posted on the Cerebi Twitter page is the loading screens. I have surprisingly strong feelings about the loading screens of Pokemon Go. There are some things they've done with them which have been really cool, clever ideas. There have also been those that feel like a mess, and then many of them are just really pretty. So I decided to go through every loading screen so far and rank them based on how good I think they are. Well, I think that's all the preamble dealt with, so let's get into it. Number 36, Research and Mew Screen. You might as well call this one Bland Central because it's really bland. Nothing here really stands out to me. The scenery is a forest, and that's in no way unique for a Go loading screen. Most of the screen is taken up by Professor Willow, which is probably one of the most boring things they could have had in a loading screen, and it also makes it significantly less pretty than most loading screens. Even the Pokemon selection here feels really dull. I don't really have a heck of a lot good to say about this one. Number 35, Season of Alola. This is the second loading screen that we got with Alolan Exeggutor as the focal point, and frankly, this one is just a lot uglier. If I had to pinpoint why, I think the colours on this one are just too washed out, and they don't pop like it feels they should. This one is probably my least favourite from a purely aesthetic standpoint. Number 34, Season of Rising Heroes. What even is this one? Like, yeah, sunsets are really pretty, sure, but what is this? It's just a trainer and some Pokemon standing around in a generic grassy area. There's no depth here. It doesn't feel like it's a tangible place. It's just here for a hero shot, and for me it falls flat. There were so many better ways to do this same concept. Number 33, Season of Hidden Gems. I don't have much to say about this one. I just find it really boring, and considering it has Riolu in it, that's nothing short of impressive. But I also think the trainer in this one looks really goofy. Not sure why. Number 31, Spring 2021. This one, admittedly, is kinda pretty, but there's just no depth to it. It's just a bunch of random Pokemon standing around with Xerneas looking down upon them. It feels like it follows a very generic formula that many of these loading screens follow, and it doesn't put its own stamp on that at all. Number 30, Season of Mythical Wishes. The idea of the Pokemon all watching a shooting star is a cute concept, but it's very messy in its execution, and again, just doesn't feel very much like it stands out from the rest. Number 29, Christmas 2016. I think that making a Pokestop into a makeshift Christmas tree is a cool idea, so this gets plus points for that, but the blue background and the use of the 3D models to make this loading screen kinda come together to make one of the least visually pleasing loading screens. Number 28, Raid Battle Load Screen. I initially had this a lot higher, as it's quite a cool way to represent raids being added to the game, but in the end I realised that outside that novelty it isn't particularly clever, creative or really visually striking, so it dropped a significant amount. Number 27, New Year's 2020. I get what it's going for, with the trainer and Pokemon looking to the horizon as they look towards the new year, but in the end I once again just feel like it's a bit too generic and there isn't anything catching my attention. Not bad though. Number 26, Summer 2019. Again, not a bad one, but it isn't jumping out at me. It doesn't have much of its own identity aside from water, which frankly has been used many times at this point. Number 25, Spring 2020. I like the framing of this one, with our view being from the treetops looking down at everyone else. It looks pretty cool and unique. I guess I'm just not super keen on the setting, and they don't make it look as gorgeous as it could have been. Number 24, Winter 2020. The idea of Pokemon rolling snowballs down the hill is great fun and executed pretty well here, but I've always found that the snow actually kind of makes everything blend together and it isn't perfectly clear as an image. Number 23, Happy New Year 2019. This isn't one of my favourite New Year loading screens. I think mainly because it just feels like it doesn't have enough light in it, but I do like that Electivire and Lucario are here, as they are two of my favourite Pokemon. I also kind of feel like it's meant to be a sequel screen of sorts to the one before it, due to Lucario and Electivire appearing in both. But if that's the case, then it isn't very well conveyed. Number 22, Summer 2018. I'm not really into the beach aesthetic as a rule, so this can only be so high, but it is quite pretty and I like the wave and how Alolan Exeggutor is framing the right side of the screen. Number 21, Winter 2021. This one has a really cute concept, Pokemon sharing presents, and that makes it a very nice, pleasant screen, if not one I'm massively into. Number 20, 2018 loading screen. This loading screen uses 3D models, which is again a bit of a drawback, but this one makes up for it with an explosion of colour, as well as just having a lot to see. Slackoff sleeping in the Zero, Torchic being adorable, and of course the party hat Wurmple, still one of the best costume variants of a Pokemon in this game. Number 19, Winter 2019. This is a really fun one. The idea of all these Pokemon having a sled ride is really cool, and I like that this is where most of the focus of the image is. As well as that, I love Snorlax, so that brings it up. Number 18, GoFest 2021 Hooper. I'm only including this one, not the one without Hooper, as they're pretty much exactly the same, aside from one having Hooper. I tend to like loading screens that feel like they have a unique spin to them, and not just Pokemon standing around. This one has them on some sort of beach hut playing music, and it's just a lot of fun, plus the environment feels very different. Number 17, Season of Go. Yes, the fact that I love Snorlax contributes here, however, I also really like the idea of the Pokemon migrating, and it makes what could have otherwise been very generic feel much more unique. Number 16, Team Go Rocket. This is easily one of the coolest loading screens ever. The red eyes, the grimy feel, the generally intimidating air around the Pokemon and the Rocket members. Frankly, the thing that keeps it so slow down is the fact that it uses 3D models and they just don't look as good. Number 15, Season of Light. The Guzzlord silhouette is so intimidating and makes for an awesome load screen. I mean, sure, there's a bit much going on, but overall, that doesn't take away from how cool it is. Number 14, Autumn 2020. The Halloween loading screens are consistently excellent, hence why they're all in the top 15 for me, and saying this is one of my least favourite shows you just how good they are. This one is gorgeous, and I love the use of Mega Gengar. Number 13, Photobomb. I think this is the one that makes it most clear that the trainers in these pictures don't look that great. But that aside, and the fact I think it would be better without the background Pokemon, I love the idea of turning a Photobomb into a loading screen, and that is definitely one of the most unique loading screens out there. Number 12, Christmas 2017 load screen. When making this list, I initially didn't like this one due to it being kinda nondescript, but then I looked again and it is so pretty. It's amazing. The tree is stunning and the Pokemon are adorable. Number 11, New Year 2021. I can't effectively explain why this is better than the 2020 New Year's one because it's entirely on vibes. I think this feels a little more restrained in a good way, and I love that Ho-Oh is the focus because Ho-Oh has always felt like it works well to symbolise a new beginning. Number 10, New Year's 2017. It's simple but effective. The fireworks are so big and bold here, and they act as a nice contrast to the baby Pokemon below. It looks absolutely stunning. Number 9, the current loading screen. Holy heck, this is one of the prettiest loading screens ever. Hell, it might be the prettiest. The autumn leaves are so cool in the wind, and it seems to have a new art style, which I love. This one is gorgeous. Number 8, Winter 2022. This is just adorable. Sphere pretending to be a snowman head is just great, and this one gives me a really cozy feel. I actually think that as much as the idea of Pokemon Go is meant to be an adventure into the wilderness with Pokemon, the reality is that it's played a lot in urban areas, and I have to say, I love it when they do this in the loading screens. Number 7, Autumn 2021. This is an incredibly unique Halloween themed loading screen, with the Pokemon making a shadow of a monster on the wall, but that is only to its strength as it makes it really stand out. Halloween 2016. The early loading screens had a very obvious mission statement. Player will be too focused on their phone to be paying attention to their surroundings, which could be dangerous, so let's represent this by depicting the trainer looking at their phone and not seeing a very obvious danger nearby. I think the loading screens were at their best when they leaned into this. And sure, they continued to depict the trainers in this way for a while, but with more going on and less obvious threats, it just wasn't as effective. This loading screen is an example of where it goes right. Here, Gengar is the threat that the trainer is ignoring. It's simple, but effective. There's nothing else here to distract you from the message, and I love it. This was also before the art style for the loading screens was cemented, so it looks pretty unique in that way. Number 5, Play at Home. This is another urban one, and I really like it. It has a really pleasant, chilled vibe, and each Pokemon has been added in a really fun way. It's incredibly nice, which might not sound particularly groundbreaking, but the vibe it gives me is impeccable. Number 4, Halloween 2017 load screen. Halloween load screens were always great, but this one was the peak. The spooky Pokemon all being framed by the moon looks so cool, and it even has the trainer not being aware, so that's a massive plus for me. Number 3, Johto load screen. Not only is this an excellent example of the trainer not being aware form of the load screens, this is one of the coolest examples, with Steelix bursting out of the ground in awesome fashion. Number 2, trainer battles. Lucario and Electivire are among my favourite Pokemon, so a loading screen with them battling is always going to be a plus for me. The fact that it's so awesome and has this much impact only makes it even more amazing. Number 1, original load screen. The original, to me, is still the best. It has it all, especially the trainer not looking where they're going and not seeing a Gyarados about to attack him, with Gyarados being the perfect Pokemon for this type of loading screen. It also has an incredibly unique art style. This, to me, catches the spirit of Pokemon Go in a way no other one has. And that's my list. Let me know what you think of the loading screens, which are your favourites, which are your least favourites, or maybe if you don't care at all.